in 2006, so when I founded the company, so I borrowed 25,000 euros from my parents, which I returned back at 0% interest.
The best investors.
Best investors ever.
So you have to be very harsh with your brothers in business, because business is business and family is family. Tomorrow, I'm not in Infobip anymore. I would create my own new startup.
Today we talked with Silvio Kutic, who created a billion-dollar company in a village of 3,000 people.
While we were preparing for this interview, I went on your LinkedIn page and I took a look at your CV, and there are only two things there. So you graduated and you founded Infobip.
That's correct.
Yeah, so little information, so many stories, but I felt like something was missing. So I went through your older interviews and I tried to gather some things, and I found out that your Infobip is not actually your first job. So your first job was Croatian electricity company after you graduated from the Faculty of Electrical Engineering and Computing in Zagreb. And as I understand, correct me if I'm wrong, on your first work day, you got up, went to work, worked for 4 hours, is that correct? Okay. You went on a break, and you drank coffee, or did you eat something?
Mm-hmm.
What do you remember?
Yes, I didn't do anything. Like, I just went to my apartment, picked up my stuff,
Oh, okay.
took the first bus, and came back to Vinyan.
And you never came back to work. What was going through your head those 4 hours you were working, and those 4 or 5 hours you were traveling home after that?
Yeah, first, so I was working on my master thesis, you know. So I graduated energetics, like high voltage, not this low voltage stuff, you know. And so I was working for 7 months this master thesis, you know.
Okay.
And it was like basically Java server and client for geographic information system of the whole like electrical network of Croatia. And it was 99% developing, 1% energetics, which I was like studying. Mm-hmm. And this like really the director of this like company really liked what I'm doing, and they wanted to implement this with SCADA connected to automatize the whole network, you know. And so they've been waiting me there for 2-3 months that I will come. He presented me to the other directors on a conference of other like electrical utility companies like from the region, you know. Mm-hmm. So everybody knew that I'm coming there. They've been waiting me, you know, like. And this first day, so I came there, mm-hmm. and I got a little lost. They had very slow internet.
Oh, what year was that?
In 2003, I think. Okay. Mm-hmm. And somehow I was not feeling a good atmosphere, like challenging and very different than what I was expecting. But you know, like I was there for some time until lunch. I left.
That was enough for you.
And I never came back. And then you know, I had the idea to start something, you know, about communication. Mm-hmm. That was in 2003, mm-hmm. and I already did my first project of the virtual community in 2002. Before that, then I graduated. Then I continued working in this field, you know. But these 4 hours was like basically
that was enough for you.
The only experience outside of Infobip that I had.
Why didn't you give it more time? Like someone else would say, okay, let's give it a week, a month, maybe
a year, 10 years.
You know, like you have to take quick the decisions, and I didn't see like. I mean, this is like a good environment if you want a stable job, and you can do some good stuff there also. Mm-hmm. But it was like maybe too slow for what I thought that I would be working on, you know.
I mean, at that point, like working for a public company is something that was government-owned company.
It was the dream, Croatian dream.
Yeah, Croatian
it was a dream. And like being an entrepreneur was a nightmare, and I would argue for some it still is. Why did you decide at that point, okay, I do want to start my own company? What made you think, okay, this makes sense for me?
Yes, so this was like a dream job, and like some colleagues that were in the same group with me on the university, they joined the same company. They're still there because it fits for them there. And but you know, from when I was very young, I wanted to start my software company.
Interesting.
From like when I was 12, 13 already. I knew that I want to do that.
Did you see other companies and then you said, okay, these are my like examples?
I was like already developing stuff at that time.
Do you remember your first project?
My first project, so I built like at that time was Clipper, Fox Plus, and this DB. I built the software for the library at the school here, like for the books, you know, and also I built another software for the warehouse management for the company where my father was working. They never paid me.
Of course. Yeah. Well, we are actually filming this in Vodnjan. How many residents does Vodnjan have? 6,000, I think?
3,300 Vodnjan.
Even less,
Yeah.
okay.
But with Peroi, Galižana, let's say the whole surrounding 6,000.
Yeah, so you started here and you are still here. And one of your first projects, if I read correct in your interviews, was made in garage. Just a typical startup story. But those garages are quite different than the ones from Silicon Valley. I mean, we've been to Silicon Valley, we saw the garages Apple was made in, but not just the looks, of course, but the background of the founders, the education, the access to funding. Can you explain what it looked like for an entrepreneur that wanted to start his own startup back then, without the funding, without the...
Yeah, so first it was very crazy. And you know, like my parents, so they very been supporting about me, like founding the company and doing that stuff. But you know, in one moment they said, but you know, like you studied 5 years, you worked just 4 hours in what you studied 5 years.
Yeah.
And now, you know, like you are building a software where you basically resell some messages for like few cents, you know, like where is the business model here? And at that time we didn't have the business model right yet. And also like being an entrepreneur in these years in Croatia after the war, and we transitioned from the communist socialistic system to a private model. So like being like an entrepreneur, a business person was like a little bit criminalized, let's say, in the society because of everything what happened, how this process of transition was made, you know. Today is much better, but at that time was like a little negative to be like a business entrepreneur.
Was it hard for you to be seen in that light? Like you were doing something that wasn't...
For me, I started everything from scratch. You know, and I'm very proud of that. You know, I will do that again, of course. And I hope that, you know, also in Infobip, I'm trying to build new stuff from scratch. So this is very interesting for me. But something, you know, like how to, let's say, what was my main, let's say, motivation to do that. First, you know, I wanted to have autonomy and to create something from scratch, something useful, something with value, something with impact, you know. And second, you know, after these 4 hours, but you know, like in Croatia at that time, you really didn't have many very cool places where to work and where you can basically flourish after university. And I wanted to create something. We didn't know exactly what, but it was always about communication. But something, you know, that to help people to grow through this company, you know, not just for the company, but for them.
That's why you created that virtual network, virtual municipality project.
That was our first project, yeah.
What was that about?
Let's say that project was like a social network. It was like, let's say, you could create a virtual working place, which was like a channel through a CMS, and then like the users could subscribe through web, email, SMS at that time. And then we had to launch this project on 10th of August 2002. 10th of August is the day of the city here, so I know exactly the date, you know. But this, we didn't have it like finished. It was like maybe 30% done. And then we've been presenting here, like here at the main square, and we had like the mayors of all the major cities here, etc., a lot of politicians, how it is, and a lot of business people. And we've been presenting Roberto, Tommy, another friend, and I. And we collected the numbers of all these people that entered the room.
Very GDPR.
Yeah, but
of course.
I just want to say that.
This was in 2002, And then, then we put in behind the scenes until we've been presenting, we put these numbers in the database. And how I was presenting, when I click on one link, everybody's receiving welcome to the virtual community, etc., etc.
Wow.
Yeah. And after that, we had lunch all together, and then people went home and started to click on the website, and the mayor of Vanyan came, guys, please, can you stop this? Everybody received already 100 messages because people went home and they've been clicking this link there where, was just hard-coded, we're sending the message to everybody.
Oh my God.
And then after that, and I was working on this project really from a garage. We had also the doors of the virtual community. It was like a touch screen, you could take a picture, and we've been building that stuff, there and developing there and everything. And I was working on this with several friends from the university, and Roberto, my brother, was also in this first team. But how we failed with this first presentation, somehow everybody left the project, and then I finished this project in the next 7-8 months alone, So I re-entered the developing world, let's say, that I was some few years at the university I was not developing.
Yeah.
I was developing before that. And so I just continued working on that kind of things. Then I had my master, and then I continued after that with this, when I took the bus back with several other projects, and all these projects failed.
Why didn't that phase you? Why did you continue? If the project failed, it didn't work, why didn't you switch to something else, or just say okay, I'll join someone else?
Okay, but because that's what I wanted to do, even after, I came back with this bus there, they've been calling me for 3 months, are you coming back to work or not? It's like...
Yeah.
So you didn't actually quit, you didn't sign it.
And, but I was, so nothing was really happening, let's say, nothing was moving, but I was so happy every day that I'm doing what I like and what somehow was for me,
So you rediscovered coding, and that was
coding,
the thing.
But I was building something, I didn't know what, but I was one project failing, another project. It's a lot of energy, and when you have all of that, efforts, energy, and willingness, you have to succeed.
So you actually discovered power of SMS through that project, and SMS is still standing strong today.
Yes.
What do you think? When will SMS era end? Will it end?
Or is it an evolution?
Yeah.
I think that will end in the next 5 to 10 years, because the technology is very old. Last year was 30 years of the technology, 1992. You remember that we had Jimmy Kimmel on the US TV?
Yeah. That was fun.
Yeah, and but it's so simple technology that everybody can use it, and for companies it's very, let's say, low effort to create campaigns, to create communication strategies, and it does the job on the other side. And it's very ubiquitous, so everybody can receive an SMS, everybody knows how it works, everybody knows how to reply if you need. So it's very simple technology that is very well adopted globally. And today we see WhatsApp and other OTTs being used much more. And also we see that Google is pushing the SMS 2.0 RCS. So the thing will be transitioned into more rich channels. But again, for all these big shifts, you need time also. But still today, this SMS, A2P, application to person, so businesses communicating with the end users, is growing.
So it's basically a matter of shifting it in time and then...
Yeah, but also in the next, let's say, 3 to 5 years, what analysts predict, they predict globally growth still in the A2P SMS. And then after that, probably the replacement as new Android devices, for example, by default implementing RCS, there will be this big shift at once on RCS and iMessage for Apple Business.
On top of that question, were there moments during this evolution of SMS that people said, oh, SMS is dead.
Yes, every year.
Have you ever worried about that? Have you seen, oh, the analyst said, oh, SMS is dying, and you're, damn, we might not have a business then? Or,
no, but okay, we're, let's say, tracking this analyst maybe last 5, 6, 7 years. Before it was like all gut feeling and we had demand here, we've been building use cases. But we've seen already that it was growing, and like 2006, 7, 8 already, like people said, like SMS is dying, and that's it for the technology. But it's still here, it's still growing.
what would you suggest or give advice to other entrepreneurs that are working in different fields maybe and are hearing, oh, something they're working on is dying or is not hot as well? What would you recommend to them as like how to decide if they should like continue on their track? Is it a matter of like the gut feeling that you mentioned? Is it about like looking at the data?
Gut feeling, it's like also like you taking in consideration data. And it's very, very important that you're in touch with customers to understand, okay, how any technology is like having value for them, what's the impact there, how they plan to use it in the future. Then you understand better how to move. But also if you have the data that, for example, Android, they will implement RCS as the default communication. So this will change, let's say, on that side. But our platform is capable, and we are like already working with all of those players.
We've heard that you really like talking to customers, but you think it's important, obviously. What does talking to customers, in your case, mean operationally? Like, how do you, as a CEO today of a unicorn, talk to customers? Just like to give people an idea that even when you're at the top, you need to talk to people.
Yeah. It's like I'm talking to customers like I'm not the CEO. I'm trying to see, okay, which type of problem they are having, how we can solve this with our technology, what are they expecting from us,
So is it
how we can,
Yes.
how we could develop. For me, it's the most important, okay, why they are paying us to understand, why somebody is paying your product, how they see like in 3 to 6 months or a year, what will be their needs, so I understand the trends, and I understand, okay, how our product design, and product development, how we should position our products going forward also. This is the most important, of course, and being in touch with the customer for that is very important, and like for us as well, But, like it's like a customer discovery, more or less.
Let's get back to the media. You were under the media radar for a long time. I mean, Ivan and I have been following the startup scene in this region for 10 or 15 years. And we always knew that there was some company in Pula doing telecom something. But when you decided to talk to media, it was under your terms. So what was that moment that convinced you that now you actually need to talk to journalists and do some interviews and be on TV? And
Okay, but we are not a lot on TV and in media also today.
But more than before.
Before we never. We've been under the radar. I think we've been very focused on doing what we are doing, on our work. And we didn't have much customers in Croatia. It's like from almost day one we've been an international company, traveling all around the world. And also, like from a, let's say, public perspective, like again connected with this, like let's say now it's very different. It's more like entrepreneurship, so people are more cheering, like positively looking at that. At that moment was or negative, or like let's say neutral. So like that was the main reason. So we didn't see any, let's say, good reason to come out of all medias here,
Yeah. What surprised you the most after being in media?
The most, like, but let's say, because like, like when you read like the comments on the social networks
So
here
you
in
read
Croatia.
the comments.
Yeah, but like when you read about other, let's say some entrepreneurs here, you read very, very negative comments also, like what I mean, right?
Yes, we do, unfortunately.
But for us, we had always very positive feedback from the public. Let's say when we started to go with more publicity through the medias here. Maybe because like we've been bootstrapping, we didn't take anything from the government, from the EU, from some other strange investors or something. So like, and people liked that story, you know.
No, it is a very weird story. When I wrote an article about the first investment in Infobip, it was literally like, this company has bootstrapped for 14 years to unicorn, which is weird. That just doesn't happen.
Yeah.
How did that come about in terms of like, did you even think of getting investment back in the day? Was it an option for you? Did you say no, or did you think like, okay, we won't do it? Because a lot of companies would, looking at the Silicon Valley model, say, okay, we need to raise Series A, Series B, Series C. What was your thinking then?
So like first I was from, let's say, 2001 till 2006, so like about 5 years. I was like trying with all these failures, but nicely I was like pivoting, you know, but I failed all of that stuff. But I was pivoting a little bit the model and technical model as well in business. And in 2006, so when I founded the company, so I borrowed 25,000 euros from my parents, which I returned back at 0% interest rate.
The best investors.
Best investors ever.
But, you know, and so from day one, after all these 5 years, we've been profitable. So when Infobip was founded, before I was using the company of my father for invoicing and stuff, so we've been already earning much more than our costs, you know, like, so at the end of 2005, we found like really the product's market fit, and I was like, I started developing, I stopped developing somewhere in August 2005. I started to do just sales. And I was getting in touch with 40, 50 companies per day, you know. But it was August and summer, and I then said, okay, now 60, 70 per day. And then when they started to come back, you know, from summer vacation, people just started to call me, they want to buy our product, you know. And at once, you know, like in 2-3 weeks after that, we started to earn in a day what we've been earning in a month before. And then we started to earn in a day like what we would earn in 6 months. So it started to boom, our business model, you know, it exponential growth.
Is there a certain moment when you said you hit product fit? What was the moment where those inbounds came in? Why did people start? Was it word of mouth?
It was not inbound. I was outbound, contacting them.
Yeah.
But they been on summer vacation or something, you know, and then somewhere like beginning, mid of September, everybody started to come back. And you know, like from all these models about communication, the virtual community, then we had like this My Network, which was like email, CMS, and SMS. Then in the end, we became a simple SMS API platform. You could just connect through APIs and send messages. So this was the beginning of CPaaS.
We mentioned bootstrapping. What are the benefits of bootstrapping in your opinion, and what have they been for Infobip?
So like Infobip was created in 2006, as I mentioned. But 5 years prior to that, we started already our journey. And in these 5 years, we found our product market fit. So when we founded really the company Infobip, we've been already profitable. And we continued like basically to reinvest what we've been gaining from our operating model. And and we bootstrapped the company till 2022, and we grew to almost $1 billion in revenue in 2020 when we raised our round A, basically. And bootstrapping, I think it's very good because if I compare bootstrapping and when you raise the capital, when you bootstrap, you really are working under pressure, much higher pressure, that you need to, whatever you're reinvesting, you want like quicker returns. You're really thinking very nimble, very quick, how to innovate quickly, how to bring value quickly. It's everything much more connected also, and you are doing everything like around innovation. So you innovate things, what you will need like maybe 1 year, you're looking how to do things in 1 month, very quickly. And it's like smaller company we've been at that time, so everything was like much quicker, better communications, like that was like our bootstrapping era, let's say. So like bootstrapping is very good because it pressing you to deliver value and not lose your focus maybe on some fancy things or maybe to overinvest in things that are not ready for scale. You know, if you scale a thing that is not yet product market fit, what we say, you know, then you scale like one big problem in the organization. And you could do this when you have like a lot of money. When you're bootstrapping, then you go step by step and quickly. And if it's not working, you're not continuing because you're bootstrapping, you know. So it's like very, very good for discipline.
So you mentioned pressure a few times now, and obviously you've been under pressure because you were bootstrapping and there was this huge growth and a global expansion. And I read somewhere that you used to travel 11 out of 12 months of the year. How do you stay sane during all that?
So first, I really enjoy pressure. I don't have stress about that. I enjoy this work, you know.
So you love pressure, but you're not under stress at the same time.
This is right, yeah. Sometimes you are under stress, sometimes, but I enjoy working under pressure. So we need to deliver something quickly. And from 2008, I was traveling for, like, let's say, more or less the whole career, except in COVID, of course, like nobody. And from 2008 till 2012, for 5 years, I was 11 months, more than 11 months yearly traveling around the world to set up offices, partnerships, customers, find people for the different locations. And I still didn't have like a family at that time. So it was super good for me. I was young, traveling around the world, and doing what I like to do.
It just made sense in that phase of your life.
Yeah. I was at that time, 30 years old, very young.
Was there anything that you didn't like about that period and traveling so much?
I mean, now looking back, you know, like I have many funny, you know, like stories to tell. But, so Infobip, we started our international expansion, okay, here around Europe, but our main focus was like Africa, Russia, Middle East, India, Asia Pacific, Latin America. So different types of countries. Some are like not, let's say what will come first to where you can make business, but very populous countries with high growth, you know, like. And I think this is what is unique for Infobip today. We have like 77 offices all around the world.
It would have been interesting if YouTube was popular then, and if you had a travel channel. I think that would be very very popular.
Travel vlogger.
Travel vlogger.
How much do you travel today?
Today I was just to the school and kindergarten to pick up my kids.
These days.
Longer distance.
Yeah.
These days, so on Sunday, for example, I'm going 2 weeks to the US. But now we restarted travel, so basically I'm 2 weeks traveling, 2 weeks here back in Croatia.
So it's more seasonal. So you have seasons of travel, seasons of when you're here, something like that.
In summer, I'm here.
Of course. I mean, where would you be than here? You already mentioned Roberto, as some may not know, he's your brother. How did you get your brother to work with you, especially because in the beginning, again, it wasn't really working out. He was working with Yannick, I'm guessing a good job.
Said, yeah.
Also government-owned, we must
also
have
government-owned.
to mention that.
How did that conversation look like?
Yeah, so he started to work with us on these first projects of the virtual community. Then our first Infobip project was started in October 2003, which failed. Then Infobip number 2 failed, you know, and he was working on all of these projects, helping a little bit. And then when we founded the company, like he was here and there helping on some things. And in 2009, so he was the technical director of the part of the shipyard here in Pula. He's a mechanical engineer. And 2009, basically, I asked him, but also he made, let's say, more or less easy decision. We already started to scale at that time, and the shipyard was not in a good shape.
Okay.
And he liked IT software from when he was a kid as well, you know.
So he was convinced. Were your parents convinced as well? Like both
They were the investors. So.
Oh, right.
No, I repaid already then.
Okay.
No, but it was like already picking up very seriously.
So it makes sense.
Yeah.
And how did those first days, like Roberto, Isabel, you working, so Isabel worked on the IT part, and then you basically divided the sales and business part, right?
Isa was like from day one he was CTO. From when he was the CTO and I was the CEO when we founded the company.
As people are when they found companies.
And he was always focused on like the engineering part, on development. Technical support was a little bit on my side, a little bit on his side, but I was more or less focused in the beginning on finance, product development, product design, sales. Sales toward the mobile network operators, OP.
Yeah.
That part of the thing there. And then when Roberto joined, Roberto took over of finance and HR.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Or do you have any tips for family members going into business or brothers?
Yes, you have to be very harsh with your brothers in business. Because business is business and family is family, right? So it's like never to confuse the two, like you should be very, very objective about that.
How do you keep that separated? Oh, can you?
Yes, like we have this same look at that, like business is business, and we should be even more objective and a little bit more harsh, let's say, because we are like family related than we are not, So it's like the opposite than what maybe somebody would expect.
Everything stays in the family, everything stayed in your hometown. How do people from your hometown look at you today? Are you still the little Silvio, or?
Yes,
what changed?
Okay, so, but basically, I think not much changed here in Vodnjan. So I like to be like that also, that I'm, like the normal person like before, which I am. And my, let's say, relationship with the citizens here, and everybody knows everybody, it's a very small town, is the same like before, and I behave the same like before, so basically nothing changed.
And how do you look at Vodnjan? Because over time, Infobip obviously has its campus here, HQ, you've invested a lot to grow it, what do you want from Vodnjan in the future, and how do you think Infobip can help?
So we had Vodnjan, my family here lives in Vodnjan just last 500 years.
Just that's a thing.
So we really love the town, and the history. And for example, Vodnjan had, I think in 1887 or 88, already the public electricity, public lights through electricity, So about 10 years before Zagreb and 4 or 5 years before Pula. And Pula was a very important port at the time. So there have been many industries here. And somehow also we started to build like the tech city here before like the pandemic, to bring other engineers and people from Infobip from all around the world, and then stopped a little bit, but it would be super good, to let's say refresh this type of let's say bright people trying to build something. And here is much easier to do something like that than in Zagreb, because Zagreb is a very large city. If you can attract 100-200 engineers or people around the world, nothing will change for Zagreb, but here for Vodnjan you could do like something very positive.
Good point.
So that's something that I would like, how I'd like to maybe bring some more impact here.
So that's your impact as a CEO. Now for a question a bit different. If you weren't the CEO of Infobip, of a unicorn tomorrow, what would you do? Would it be producing olive oil like Infobip does already? Would it be sailing on your boat? What would be what would Silvio's life look like?
And it's not in technology.
It can be.
It can be. Would it that?
Let's say that Infobip doesn't exist.
You just can't be the CEO or work for Infobip tomorrow. It still exists, maybe.
Maybe, like I would like to be a mentor to some other startups, Or maybe I would work for somebody in an interesting startup, something around that. But also, let's say, my family, they have been like producing olive oil before and things like that. So this is also interesting, working with the nature, you know.
It's interesting to me that even with my question being geared towards like sailing and all of them, everything you come back to, I would work for someone or a mentor. I'm guessing it goes back to you like what you do, and you would just like that's why you do it. It's not about
right. For example, if tomorrow I'm not in Infobip anymore, I would create my own new startup. That's at least what I think now, you know.
Geez, this is the conversation we've had. It's like if we weren't in Netocratia, we would just like probably create another one.
Would you bootstrap again today?
I would, for sure, I would try to do this by bootstrapping, yeah. But then will depend on the circumstances, the conditions, economic environment and everything. But bootstrapping is cool.
Well, in the end, I would like to go back to your early days before you went to college. I listened to an interview where you mentioned a book that changed your life. It was called Using C by Lee and Marko Atkinson. And you were in high school in your junior year, and thanks to you being obsessive with that book, you actually had 7 Fs at the end of the school year. Do you still have that book?
This is correct. Yeah, I had 7 Fs or like 1 here in Croatia, and out of 11 possible votes, you know, like I was the worst in the school at that like semester, you know, because I was just reading programming with this book. I didn't see this book for a few years, but for like here and there, in several years, like I'm seeing it a little bit, so like it's somewhere at home.
Yeah. Well, we talked a lot here today about you being passionate about coding, and still you decided to study energetics. Do you feel sorry that you chose that today?
No. At that time, you know, like after 2 weeks that I started with energetics, I was thinking like to basically drop off the university. And you know, like when you're a student, you like to have fun around, go out, go on sports, you know, things like that. So I was thinking, you know, IT is changing very quickly. If I go to energetics, nothing changed for the last 100 years. I have to learn that, and I will apply that, you know, like that was my mindset at that time. You know?
Yeah.
And after 2 weeks, you know, like I noticed that this is not what I like, really. This is not for me. But somehow, you know, like I said, you know, if I can do something that is like, that I really don't like, and I can accomplish that, then after that, when I will work on some things that I really like, then I will do really good. It is like a mindset. You need to do this something for 2 years. It's easier to basically say, okay, I don't want to do this, you know, you just need to continue, right? And this is true in your life as well, you know.
Do you still write code nowadays?
No, I didn't for many years already.
Would you like to do that again?
You need to have time for that, but I really like this world, this thinking, you know, that you create whatever you want.
So maybe with AI?
And AI is super nice, yeah.
Maybe you get back to it with the kid.
Yeah.
And you start coding.
Yeah.
I don't know. And one extra question. In the next episode of this podcast, we're going to interview your colleague, Jan Ostojic. Do you have a question for him that you'd like us to ask?
Yes. So Ostojic, he joined us beginning of last year, and he was for the last 10 years prior to that in McKinsey. We hired McKinsey on some projects. They've been here like for a few months, and we've seen that he's really quick, smart, this person. And I told to Roberto, we need to ask him to join us, you know. And we said to Ostojic, like, okay, what do you think if you come to work for Infobip? And you know, he was working in McKinsey. He founded the tech council in McKinsey. Yeah. He was like one of the top people in the McKinsey. And he thought about 1 minute, and he said, he was like watching outside of the windows there, and he said, you know, I really like that. So we are looking here at these olive trees, and we are disrupting the world of communication. And my question to him is like, okay, after 1.5 years, like how he sees his impact and is he happy in the direction that we are changing this industry.
Awesome. I like that.
Yeah, we will ask him.
But after this 1 minute, he said, yes, I will come. Let me just call my wife.
Great.
And on that, we can end. Thank you for being part of the first episode of the podcast.
Thanks to you. Yeah, super.